Hi and welcome to another video. So today I will be starting on a new project, which is to create my own UI library. So this is what we will do today. As you can see, I have a simple label, and when I hover over it, it changes the colors. That's what we will be doing today. So for our UI class, we're gonna have one variable so far, which is the render window, our main window, and then our functions are gonna be to initialize and also the update and render function. So this is our CPP file, which just right now has the init file, and right now the only thing we will be doing is assigning the variable. I also created another file which is going to hold all of our enums, right, which we're going to use. So first one is going to be our color type. We're going to have four different ones. We have the fill, outline, hover, and pressed, right? All of those can have different colors. And then also the origin, which is mainly going to be used on our labels. It says sort of like an anchor, right? We're going to have top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right, and also the center. And then, so yeah, that's basically for the origin. And also the button states, we obviously have the idle, the hover, and active, which means if the button is pressed or not. So our GUI component, which is another class, it's going to be a base class for all of the components, such as labels, buttons, sliders, and so on. The class contains the followings: the four colors, which is going to be the fill, outline, hover, and pressed, as I mentioned before. We're also going to have a boolean called update and an ID variable. And we're also going to have two pure virtual functions which must be implemented in our derived classes, and they are update and render. And this is mainly how it looks. This is the GUI component. We can now create a label class, which is obviously derived from our GUI component class. And so it has four constructors, and we are constructor chaining them to our main constructor. That's what we're doing, so that in our CPP file we can just have one constructor to implement all of them. We also have the functions which can set the color. As you can see, it takes in the color type enum, like I mentioned before. Also, we can set the origin, and we can set the outline thickness, which we don't need to do it in a CPP file. And also we're gonna have our two derived functions that we have from our. So in our CPP file, we can set the necessary information to our constructor, obviously, as like the text, character size, fonts, and so on. We can also have the default outline thickness to 1 and the default origin to center. And then we can also assign the current fill color and out. For our set color function, we're gonna have simply a switch statement, right, which depends on the color type, the enum, and yeah, it's pretty simple. We just assign the new color to the associated based on the case that we have. And also we have to, if it's the hover, we have to set call update equal to true, because we want to update it every frame then to make sure that if we are hovering or not. And then label class doesn't need any sort of like pressed option, but we can assign it if we want to. For our set origin, it's almost pretty much the same. We're just gonna have a vector2f which holds our new origin, and depending on the origin we can assign different values to it. Top left is obviously the default one in SFML, so that's pretty easy, and the other ones do require a bit of math, but it's nothing too crazy. And yeah, and then we can just simply assign this new origin to our text. Also the update is also pretty simple. We just have to make sure that if the call update is equal to false, then we can return. And then if we are currently hovering over the text, we can set the fill color equal to our hover color, else it will simply be the fill color. And then we can simply render it. In our header file, we can create a vector that will hold all of our UI elements, right? It's just a vector of GUI components. And then we can just create a function that can create text for us. And in our CPP file, when creating the text, we can just create a new text object basically, and we can assign the ID to the size of the UI elements, which I know is not the right way. Alright, I will change it later on. And then we can, if we want to, we can set the color equal to red if we hover over it. We can add it to our vector, and then we can return the new object. For our update, we can simply check if UI elements are empty. If it is, we can return it because there's no need to update anything, right? And then we just have a for loop, and we are simply gonna be calling UI elements.update. We're gonna update all of our UI elements, and it's gonna be pretty much almost the same thing with our render. We also have a for loop, and then we simply render all of our UI elements. In our init function, we can now create a new text, which it's just pretty much a normal text. It centers in the middle of the screen with a character size of 64. Now in our main.cpp file, we can load the font. We can also instantiate our UI and initialize it. And then, just as any other object, we can call the update function and also the render function. And that's pretty much it. As you can see, it loads perfectly fine, and we get the same result that we get the results that we wanted. So that's all I had for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to, you can subscribe, like, and do all that stuff. See you next time.